My name is Inna Duckworth. I'm a medical herbalist with a university degree, member of National Institute of Medical Herbalists. I run Women's Health Natural Clinic in Horsham. My expertise lies in perimenopause. I'm often asked, what is perimenopause? So today we will talk about it and explore some avenues that might be useful for you as well. Perimenopause is a process as our body is changing and getting ready for menopause. Technically, medically, menopause happens for one day. It's a one day after a year of absent period. So once you stop menstruating and 12 months after, one day menopause, and everything else is technically post-menopause. So perimenopause. What has happened in my clinic some years ago is that women were coming to me and they were having very weird symptoms, and I had understanding that they're linked hormonally, but this concept wasn't explored that well as it is now. So and these women were much younger. They were about 35, 38 years old, and they had really weird symptoms, and main symptoms were bloating, fatigue, and insomnia. And I started my journey into understanding what is causing those symptoms, and then came understanding more about perimenopause. What is happening is that our cycles become unovulatory. So as we age, and due to stress and some other nutritional and environmental factors, we do not have ovulation. So the main event of our female cycle is not period, it is ovulation. Ovulation is a chance to get pregnant every month, but together with this chance comes production of a special hormone called progesterone. And now progesterone, so the first cycle, estrogen is dominating and it's rising and rising and rising, and then at some point after ovulation, progesterone starts rising, and progesterone is our feel calm hormone. And so when we do not have this rise of progesterone, the estrogen remains dominant, and it creates so-called estrogen dominance. Now, for those who are a little bit more advanced watching this, the concept is not that straightforward. You can have ovulation and still be estrogen dominant, or you can have other like irregularities of the cycle. All of them can be picked up with special tests like Dutch test. Dutch stands for dry urine comprehensive hormonal testing, but the acronym is Dutch. And I will speak about Dutch test in one of my videos. However, at the moment we are talking about perimenopause. So this excess of unopposed estrogen creates various symptoms. One of them is bloating. Why? Because estrogen is a growth hormone. So everything that's exposed to estrogen has a tendency to grow. So it creates like abundant mucousy space, which helps growth, and it applies to the colon as well. And say by the time we're 35, we've had several other gut-related issues. We had a couple of rounds of antibiotics, for example, and the research shows that after antibiotic, it's literally a barren wasteland. So if the research shows that before antibiotic treatment, there's like a lot of life, a lot of microbiome abundance. So we've got very, very rich different strains of bacteria. But then after antibiotic, for up to 3 years, the colon is devoid of all this abundance and variety, and the strongest species grow, and often the strongest species are not the ones that are healthy. So basically, like by having something like that, we already have a space which is like sort of would be preferable growth space for not so healthy bacteria, and they cause bloating. Now with bloating, there are basically It's bloating normally happens around this area, and it's often linked with small intestine and the so-called SIBO. What is happening is that we know that this bloating is linked with at least 4 types of bacteria, and some of them are kind of the bacteria that came down from the top, sort of through stomach, due to less robust hydrochloric acid. And some of the other bacteria, they come from the bottom, sort of because of the valve, ileocecal valve is not tight enough because of exposure to gluten, inflammation, and it's maybe psychological as well, because we've got vagus nerve innervating our colon as well. So it's very personal, but because of that we have got this, and also the growth of bacteria can be pushing through this valve. So basically we've got either some bacteria that should, well, technically the small intestine should be almost sterile, not but almost sterile. So some bacteria come from the stomach, and some bacteria come from the large intestine, and they create this havoc. Now, the best way to address the situation, and also I didn't mention, is the oral hygiene health as well. Some bacteria are translocating from the oral cavity due to either not optimal hygienes or recurrent infections or inflammation in the dental space. So when we have got the SIBO scenarios or any other kind of serious gut health scenarios, my recommendation is to start with the special GI stool tests, advanced technological tests, where we can look into what exactly is going on, what is causing this imbalance, and then address it accordingly. So that's about bloating. So the other thing is with estrogen, we have got the so-called like when we talk about detoxification in our body, estrogen is one of those sort of one of the substances that needs to be excreted properly. So for that we have got this link. So we've got 2 phases of detoxification in the liver, and this is very important that the liver works well for estrogen detoxification. And part of our work together is to support your liver through nutrition and through some herbal support for the liver. And nutrition, because there's no point if somebody's having a diet of processed food. There is a point of adding some herbs and supplements to support the liver, but the first point is to start changing diet. And changes in the diet are largely around helping you be happy and healthy, because most people, there is convenience in processed food, but there is also an element of kind of pleasurable satiety coming from processed food, which can be achieved with healthy food as well. It's just a matter of reframing and restructuring. So coming back to estrogen, so the first the first is two stages of process is liver metabolism, and the third stage of the process is work of your colon, because we have got several types of bacteria that the body's prepared estrogen to go. Thank you very much, you've done your job, you may go now. But we have got special types of bacteria that kind of liberate this estrogen in the colon and return it back to the circulation. And that is why your gut health is very important for this process. So that's we talked about first symptom that women come with, which is bloating. Second symptom that women come with is insomnia. Now, insomnia is a very, very kind of complex story. However, the biggest part of insomnia in earlier ages is linked with lack of progesterone, or with genetic predisposition to there are 2 types of precursors of progesterone, and one is linked with producing calming neurotransmitters and the other isn't. And we can work it out through Dutch test or through special nutrigenomic tests, where we can find out what are the preferred body pathways of creating progesterone or creating estrogen. And these works are very important if you have got a family of reproductive, if you've got family history of reproductive cancers. Because we can work out, for example, there are 3 types of estrogen, and one of the types of estrogen is linked with proliferative cancers, and knowing if you're prone, your default pathway is creating these types of estrogen metabolites will help to put effort into diverting this pathway, which is possible through diet, lifestyle, some herbs, maybe medicinal herbs, and some other supplementation. But again, knowledge is power. If you know that this is happening in your family, then you might want to really put some effort into that. And so this was insomnia. So if you are not making progesterone, you are more likely to have troubles with anxiety and insomnia. This can be worked at, and so there are several stages of perimenopause. One is sort of when we're just starting, and it is still possible to balance the cycle and probably have some more years of ovulatory cycles. And why it is important? Because of progesterone, because of this kind of natural flow. Then there becomes a point where the cycles are anovulatory. So then it is about managing this transition and helping with cardiovascular sort of implications. And the last stage of perimenopause, when it's clear that it is going to menopause and now it's time to protect with like reducing level of estrogen, it's important to replace it and kind of not replace it but support it with phytoestrogens and lifestyle. This is where a lot of women go to for HRT, which is fine, but there are some women for whom HRT is counterindicated, and then maybe it's time for them to have a look at natural solutions which can support them longer term. There's also an aspect of like food, diet, nutrition, where it is much easier to support your body with HRT if everything else is in place, because if you just you're adding this synthetic or even bioidentical hormones, which is preferable to your body, you still need to process them. You still need to have your liver working well. You still need to have your gut working well. You still need to know your thyroid status. All of that is not a kind of magic bullet, So all of that is a delicate balance that you achieve in your body before you're taking the HRT. So, and the third symptom with perimenopause, which I encounter a lot, is fatigue. Well, it is not uncommon. We are working a lot, all of us. Those who have mothering responsibilities and those who don't. We are as a society, as humanity, we're working too much, in my opinion. So there are several aspects how to look at that. If you feel you are fatigued, again, I recommend starting with Dutch test or an alternative test, which is like my least preferable is just Dutch allows you to have a look at the whole kind of range of hormones you're making and not making, but there is a specific part of this test which is available in other tests, which is called cortisol awakening response. So it is important to know before any interventions into your fatigue, it is important to know at which stage of fatigue you are at. So because there is the cortisol awakening response is something we are designed to make early in the morning to kick start the day. And if you have got high morning awakening cortisol, that means you are like super stressed, and it needs to be addressed in various ways. So like the way you wake up today has been set kind of some time ago, back in the past, and it doesn't tie with the cycle, because the cycle we experience today is something that has been set 3 months ago at least, because at 3 months ago the follicle started maturing, and in 3 months this follicle becomes the egg that's led to ovulation in this cycle. So any kind of work on adjusting your lifestyle and anything takes at least 3 months, if not longer. But this is something to understand and put in context. Like sometimes I have a very kind of stressful period and I'm like heavy or painful. I'm like, what happened? And I remind myself that 3 months ago I have been through a significant stress, and this is the result of it. So that's something to bear in mind as well. And also it's very important as you approach sort of irregularities in your cycle to start making note of it. We have got, so coming back to fatigue, when you have got high cortisol awakening response, that means you're super stressed, and it's time to work on reducing the stress where possible, looking at your life, making priorities, choosing to have more support, and for yourself, like maybe a little bit less Netflix and more sleep, and like scheduling a tiny walk, even if it's 2 blocks around your office at lunchtime. That still is better than nothing. So all of that, and that's then the next stage is when the estrogen, the morning cortisol awakening response starts dropping, and that is the body is giving in, which is very important. And the strategies are very different to support somebody with low cortisol awakening response versus somebody with high and medium awakening response. So with low awakening response, adaptogens are technically counterindicated, because somebody is already very low, they need more nutritive support, they need rest, but it all ties in together. When you look at Dutch test, you have got a special system of dials showing you what else is going on in the body at the same time. And also Dutch test allows us to see 2 major parameters of antioxidant status. One is glutathione status, which is our intracellular antioxidant number 1. So if we are making enough glutathione, we are clearing our debris well. And the major extracellular antioxidant is melatonin. So when we are not making enough melatonin, it means it's not only affecting our sleep, but also it affects the ability to clear our between cell space. And this idea of extracellular matrix, or sort of the space between the cell, is kind of getting more and more understanding, and the importance of it. So yes, knowing that will help us create tailored program for your perimenopause to understand how you can go about it. And as a major aspect of perimenopause, which is not discussed, well, it is getting more and more attention, which is insulin resistance. Insulin resistance happens pretty much, it's not just food, okay? It's not just food, it's also stress impacts insulin resistance, and it's portion control. So not only when we want to change our diet and lifestyle, it is very important not to go hungry, but at the same time it is important to be able to kind of choose healthy portions. How we achieve that, like sort of dichotomy, it shouldn't be not too much, but it should be enough, by having a really nutritious, high impactful food. Like if somebody's had a burger, they've just received like 800 calories, but the nutritional components in this 800 calories are arguable, um, especially like, you know, but depends on the quality of burger. If it was an artisan meat and it wasn't grilled with char, and the bread is maybe like multi-grain bread or like something else, then maybe. But otherwise, and you need to have a very healthy, sizable like portion of salad to go with that. So less bread, more salad, and but that's like achieving the same 800 calories can be done with like sort of whole grains, rainbow colored veg, oily fish, and like meat. But meat, if somebody's eating meat, meat should be like kind of collagen rich parts of meat, you know, and things like healthy, organic, grass-fed bone broth, and like products like that that actually help our connective tissues. And nuts as a, if you can have nuts as your snack, that would be another way to go about. Seeds, like for somebody who cannot eat nuts, seeds, and definitely reducing sugary snacks and sugary kind of breakfasts. That the science has moved on from this understanding of like crunchy cornflakes into more nutritious, less sugary, longer term providing food. So that's about insulin resistance. So all of that ties in. The other aspect of perimenopause is stemming from my understanding of five element theory, which is a Taoist theory, kind of wholesomely looking at us as a unity, and looking at our manifestation of our emotions, of our wellness or unwellness as a whole. And one of the aspects here is that by this kind of age, we are maybe quite out of balance emotionally, and this helps, like doing some emotional work, emotional coaching can help us get back on track as well. For example, anxiety is often linked in five element tradition with sort of unsettled heart. So when somebody's had a lot of sort of emotional heartache, if you like, that kind of can be cause of anxiety. So this emotional work can also be done with herbs and with other emotional coaching techniques from five element tradition. Another aspect is, for example, gallbladder and liver health. They are linked with our boundaries, with our decision making, with our vision for ourselves. So it is important to look into those directions as well. For example, I meet so many women in their like late 30s, early 40s who do not have a vision for their life. The reasons behind that are very different, because for some people it was upbringing. So like we were supposed to be good girls and like, you know, kind of follow this upbringing strategies. For other people, for the women, they just got married early, kids early, and by 40 it's like, what is my life about? And this is a good time, perimenopause, good time to review all of that and prepare for your second wind. Because many women say that after we've been through this kind of perimenopause turbulence, it's often linked to the so-called estrogen storm, because of the just the way this estrogen goes up and down, and like unlike following a structured pattern of rising and going down and rising a bit and going down. So that's like unlike that, we have got a bit much more fluctuation, and that impacts us a lot, this storm. And also we've got our stormy years when we want to be our best as moms, partners, career, just have a good time, and it's all kind of taken toll. So reviewing your life from that position and finding what is your priorities for second half of your life is part of this perimenopause work as well. Yes, I'm just thinking, what else have I not covered today? Yes, working with me, for example, can be in two ways. One way is coming for a standalone consultation where you fill in the questionnaire beforehand so that I know what to expect, and we cover all the gaps. And like, I have got questions and I listen to your story. The health reviews 1 hour. After that, I write 2 to 3 pages optimization plan, which includes diet, lifestyle, some supplementation, bespoke herbal solutions, like it will be a form of tincture or a medicinal tea, maybe some capsules, depends on the situation. And then I email you this plan, and then we have about 10-15 minutes chat where sort of I hand over this plan to you, and then you order herbs from me and the supplements, and you start making changes in diet. If we want to proceed with some functional tests like Dutch tests, I will arrange Dutch test for you, and or other tests depend on the situation. For example, I have got special training in working with intimate health, things like PV, Candida, and UTIs, and all the sort of down below area that can be explored further if needed. And I make some bespoke pessaries and different other products relevant for this area. So then, if you choose to have a standalone consultation, I would like to see you in 4 to 6 weeks time for a follow-up, just to see how you're doing, review the process and review where you are. However, the best way to work with me is to get a package from me for 12 to, sometimes I extend it from 12 to 14 weeks if we need to wait for Dutch test longer. Normally the package would include Dutch test, which I have mentioned previously, and we will we will meet regularly. This package can be with emotional support, or just the sort of more functional nutritional package, and we'll be working through changes, and like we will discuss the goals that you want to achieve in this 3 months, validate them, how realistic they are health-wise, and how realistic they are, like your sort of from where you are in your circumstances, and we will work with you. And in 3 months time we have a special 1 hour review, checking where you are, how you're feeling, what is next priorities. If you feel you want a little bit more support, we can extend this package if that's enough. My main goal is you will have everything you need to be able to look after yourself after this 3 months time with me. Well, thank you very much for your time and attention, and looking forward to seeing you. This is in Duckworth, so you can find me on the website, have a look about the perimenopause work, and yes, wishing you thrive in your 40s and beyond.